Hi, welcome to our On-Demand Medicare webinar. I'm Jesse Grutz. Thank you for taking the time to view this training. This video will cover the 3 things you should understand before making your Medicare decision. We hope that you find value in the information. As we get started, I'd like to share a quick story with you. Picture it. It's Saturday morning. My wife, 4 daughters, and I all roll out of the minivan. It's not my idea of a perfect Saturday morning because we've just arrived at Target. Now my wife, she's great. She's super organized. She's got her list. She's got her Cartwheel app open on her phone with all of the day's deals on it. She's got her coupons, paperclip to the list. She's on a mission. She knows that on this particular visit, we have about 53 minutes to get in and out of the store to get my second daughter to gymnastics on time. And I know I always have one job. Keep an eye on all of the kids so we don't lose anybody, and keep an eye on what goes into the cart. Now on this particular visit, folks, I think it took about 4 minutes. It took about 4 minutes before it happened. It was about 4 minutes into the visit when the first item, not on the list, went into the cart. Now at this particular moment, my eyes roll in the back of my head naturally, and I think to myself, oh no, here we go again. And at the very same time that my eyes are rolling in the back of my head, my wife turns to me and says, but honey, it was on sale. Folks, I'm providing this training for you to make sure that you don't put the wrong Medicare insurance into your shopping cart. For over 10 years now, I've helped people just like you that have attended this exact training make sure that they get the right Medicare insurance that fits them. So over the next 30 minutes, we are going to cover the 3 things you should understand before making your Medicare decision. Number 1, what Medicare doesn't pay for. Folks, the better you understand what Medicare doesn't pay for, that will help you better understand what ultimately is your responsibility, and that's going to help you find the best insurance to help cover that to fit your needs. Number 2, we are going to talk about the 2 types of coverage. There is a big misunderstanding of the types of insurances out there, so we are going to go through the distinct differences between these 2 types of plans, again, to make sure that you make an educated decision. And number 3, we are going to talk about switching plans. There is this perception out there that if you don't like the insurance you have this year, you can always switch next year. There are some things you can do every fall of the year, but there are some things you can't do. So we are going to clarify that for you. So to get started, number 1, we are going to talk about what Medicare doesn't pay for. Under Part A of Medicare, there is a benefit for hospitalization. This is dealing with the room and board charges should you spend the night overnight in the hospital. The first thing to make note of here is if you're going to be spending the night at the hospital, make sure that you are admitted as an inpatient. If you are held under observation, Medicare will not cover your room and board charges. Again, make sure you're admitted as an inpatient. If you are admitted as an inpatient, Medicare will cover your benefits, and there is a deductible of $1,364. Medicare does not pay this. This means that you are responsible for the first $1,364 for room and board charges should you spend the night in the hospital. Once that's paid, Medicare covers 100% of the rest of the charges for room and board for the next 60 days. So if you spend the night in the hospital 3 nights in a row, you pay the first $1,364. Medicare covers the difference. What you should understand here next is when you come home after that 3-night stay, if you were rehospitalized 82 days later, that would actually trigger another A deductible and you would have to pay that. So what you should understand here is you could see this A deductible multiple times throughout the course of a year. If you haven't done it yet and you want to write down this link at the bottom of the screen, oci.wisconsin.gov/document/consumers, that is your Wisconsin Guide to Health Insurance for people with Medicare. I'll have it on the next screen for you to take it down again as well. Continuing on with what Medicare doesn't pay for, let's talk about Part B. Now, Part B is going to cover your doctor services, so whether it's inpatient or outpatient visits, surgeries, durable medical equipment, diagnostic tests, that all falls under Part B. So before Medicare pays anything towards your Part B benefits, there's what's called the Part B deductible, which is $185 this year. So you will have to pay that. That is your responsibility. Medicare does not pay for the Part B deductible. Once you pay that, Medicare does cover the next 80%. What Medicare doesn't pay for is the last 20%. So you would be responsible for the last 20% of a claim. If you download that link at the bottom of the screen and turn to page 44, there is a word in the glossary of terms called assignment. And in that definition, it talks about something called excess charges. Basically, what this means is if a doctor does not accept assignment, not only will they charge the amount that Medicare approved, but they will also charge an extra 15% on top of that. Medicare does not cover those excess charges. That would be your responsibility. And in that same guidebook, if you jot down page 7, you'll see that the Commissioner of Insurance talks about the fact that Medicare helps cover some preventive care. This means that there's some preventive care services that Medicare does not cover. I'll share a quick story with you. I had a woman who attended this training a few months back, and she booked her strategy call at the end of the course. And we were on our phone call a few days later, and one of her concerns on the call was having a shingles vaccination covered. Well, first of all, folks, understand that Medicare doesn't cover the shingles vaccination. I'll make a long story real short. It's not covered by Medicare, as I just stated. Having that along with other preventive health care covered was one of her main priorities. So we were able to place coverage for her that covered 100% preventive health care benefits, even if Medicare didn't cover it. So that can happen, but that is not coverage that's offered through every company out there. So if that is a concern of yours, jot it down and I can help you address that. Again, the reason why we're covering the things that Medicare doesn't pay for, ultimately that means those things are your responsibility. And we just feel the better you understand what is your responsibility, you'll make a better educated decision on what coverage to get for yourself. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Next, we are going to move on to topic number 2, which is the 2 types of coverage. Now, folks, the way I look at it is there's 2 types of policies out there, one very different from the other. And to make things pretty simple, I've identified each of them as a type of cheese. So I'll identify the first type of plan as cheddar cheese. You can either choose between that or a different type of policy that I refer to as Swiss cheese. So let's expand a little bit on the cheddar cheese option. The cheddar cheese option I would like to refer to as a Medicare supplement. Now, a couple of things that we feel you should understand about Medicare supplements. Number 1, this is part of a 2-payer plan. And what we mean by that is if you buy a Medicare supplement, which are offered by private insurance companies, Medicare A and B sit in first position. This insurance policy called a supplement sits in second position. And you have a 2-payer plan then, Medicare paying first, your supplement paying second. The next thing you should understand is these types of policies are guaranteed renewable for life. What does that mean? It means as long as you pay your premium every month, the policy can never cancel you. You can keep it as long as you pay your premium. The next thing you should understand is there are no networks. Because of this 2-payer plan, the first entity again is Medicare A and B, which means as long as Medicare is accepted, as long as the doctor accepts Medicare, they have to accept the Medicare supplement. So what does this really mean for you? This means with this type of plan, you can probably keep your current doctors, assuming that he or she accepts Medicare, but it also means that you have access to any doctor anywhere in the United States as long as he or she accepts Medicare. So this is going to give you the luxury of having coverage in Florida or Arizona or anywhere else that you might be traveling throughout the winter or throughout the summer for that matter, without the fear of being out of network. It also means that while you're in Wisconsin, that if you ever wanted a second opinion, that you don't have to worry about ever being out of network. And and in most cases your deductibles going up. Your coverage would stay the same, again, as long as the doctor accepts Medicare. So it really allows you freedom to go wherever you want. The next thing that we're going to talk about is a 6-month open enrollment. When can you get one of these? So when you start Medicare Part B, that will trigger a 6-month open enrollment period where you're guaranteed to buy one of these types of policies. So it's during the 6-month open enrollment period when you start Part B that you can buy any supplemental plan without answering any health questions. You're guaranteed to get the coverage even if you have pre-existing conditions. So this is huge, folks. This means that you can get the best policy you can find, and that company has to take you. Now, we're not going to go through coverage details and how all these policies actually work as far as what their deductible is and copays if you want to have copays or pricing and things like that. That's information that we'll save for an in-person meeting should you choose to go that far in our process. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Medicare supplements. We are going to now talk a little bit more about the Swiss cheese option, which I like to refer to as Medicare Advantage plans. Medicare Advantage plans are also known as Part C, and there's a few things that we feel you should be aware of when looking at Medicare Advantage plans. Number one, instead of being a two-payer system, it is part of a single-payer system and replaces original Medicare. So before, when we talked about the supplement, you had Medicare in first position and your supplement in second position. Well, with this type of plan that's also sold by private insurance companies, it's now a single-payer plan. In fact, it looks a lot more like group health insurance or individual health insurance that you've owned most of your lives. Now, what happens here is if you buy one of these plans, it replaces original Medicare. Now, I don't want to scare you folks, but here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Should you choose to buy one of these types of plans, Medicare is being replaced, and here's why. Between Medicare and the insurance company, there's a contract, and Medicare is agreeing in that contract to send a subsidy every single month to the insurance company for each person that enrolls into this type of plan. So instead of paying for your claim when you go to the doctor like they would if you had original Medicare with a supplement, Medicare is agreeing to send a subsidy every month to the insurance company. So the insurance company takes those dollars in no matter what, no matter if you go to the doctor or not. Now, because this is a contract, and by the way, it's an annual contract, it's good for 1 calendar year, this does mean that your coverage can be canceled. And the only reason why your coverage would be canceled would be if that contract was not renewed. In other words, if Medicare and the insurance company did not agree to terms and the contract wasn't renewed, that would mean anybody on that plan would lose their coverage. Now, I don't want to completely scare you because you would qualify for something called guaranteed issue rights, where you would be given 63 days to get some other form of coverage. But just be aware that this policy can cancel you. Now, as far as being able to, where can you go with these types of plans? You know, with that cheddar cheese option, the Medicare supplement, we told you that you can go anywhere you want. There are no networks. The thing that you need to be aware of here is that there's HMOs or PPO networks that you have to be aware of. So this is something that you would want to be reviewing before the time of purchase and every year because these networks can change. So just be aware that there are networks tied to Advantage plans. So these are some of the distinct differences between Medicare supplements and Medicare Advantage plans. Again, we're going through these because we feel the better you understand these differences, the better educated decision you're going to make when it comes time to you getting your coverage. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that. We are going to move on to section number 3, which is switching plans. Now, in this next section, if there's one thing that you remember, it's what comes here in this next section. So what we're about ready to go through here in the next 5 minutes or so, please don't forget what we're gonna share with you here, okay? And again, this is in regards to switching plans. So as far as switching plans goes, in the fall of the year, every October 15th through December 7th, is Medicare's, it's called the Annual Enrollment Period, otherwise known as AEP. Now this window is for Part C and Part D only. So what you can do during this time is if you had a Part D plan for prescriptions, you can switch from one Part D to another. If you had a Part C plan, you can switch from one Part C to another. Let's say you had a Medicare with a supplement, and for whatever reason you weren't happy with that supplement anymore and you thought an Advantage plan was going to be in your best interest. This is the only window, October 15th through December 7th, that you could enroll into an Advantage plan and leave that supplemental plan. You couldn't do that any other time throughout the year other than this window here. Now, a lot of people think, well, maybe I'll start with the Advantage plan now while I'm healthy and I'll just switch to the supplement later. This window between October 15th and December 7th does not guarantee you to get your supplement, and that's where the misperception lies. If you take an Advantage plan and you have it for, let's say, the first 3 years, and then you decide, you know what, I want to go get that supplement. Yes, you can go get Medicare A and B. What you're not guaranteed to get is the Medicare supplement policy. In other words, if you wanted to do this, the insurance company offering the supplement would have to ask you health questions. When the insurance company has to ask you health questions, they can decline you. Again, this means that you're not guaranteed to get the supplement during this window. When were you guaranteed to get it? We just talked about that. You were guaranteed to get it within the first 6 months of starting Medicare. Now, there is one exception to the rule, and here's the exception. If you took an Advantage plan out as your initial option at age 65 when you started Medicare, and within the first 12 months you decided that that was not the best plan for you, you could go back to original Medicare, and at that point you would be guaranteed to get a supplemental plan. But if you took out an Advantage plan and had it for longer than 12 months, you are not guaranteed to switch. Very important. In fact, I do want to share a quick story with you. I had a lady who came to one of our live events at a library. She attended this very same class, and at the end of it, she came up immediately and she's like, I need to get on your calendar, Jesse. I think I might have made a mistake. So I put her on the calendar. She said she had to get going right away, and I continued to talk to some of the other people that had gathered around the front of the room. And the next morning when I came into the office, I couldn't help but think about this lady who seemed pretty troubled. I had her on the calendar for the following week, and as I appeared at my calendar, I noticed that an opening had popped up for the following day. So I called her up right away and I said, hey, we met last night at the meeting and at the library, and I just wanted to let you know that I had an opening come up for tomorrow. If that works in your schedule, I'd like to chat with you tomorrow instead of next week. Would that work for you? And she said, yes, absolutely. So she came into the office in downtown Delafield, and we started chatting, and within a couple of minutes she broke down in tears, and she proceeded to tell me that she had just recently been diagnosed with breast cancer. And then she continues to tell me, and that may not be the worst of it. So she goes on to tell me the day she got the call of the diagnosis, and after hanging up with her doctor, like I'm sure a lot of ladies have done before, she got on the phone with her best friend who had recently fought and beat breast cancer to give her the news. And her friend, right away was very supportive, saying that, I'm here for you. I'm gonna help you through this. You're gonna beat this. It's gonna be, no problem. We're gonna get through this together. In fact, here, take down my doctor's name and phone number. I think you should call him and get a second opinion. So they finished up their phone call, and she called the doctor's office right away, and she was ecstatic to find out that she could get on their calendar within a couple of weeks. So the receptionist was finishing up the appointment with her and booking the appointment, and was starting to take her insurance information, and it was at that point that the phone call went silent. The receptionist on the other end politely said to her, ma'am, I'm sorry, but we don't take your insurance. And immediately this woman was thinking to herself, how does this happen? Why is this happening to me? And the receptionist politely said on the other side of the phone, if anything were to change with your insurance, obviously you'd have to pay cash if you want to come in for our services. And the lady knew that she couldn't do that. If anything changes with your insurance, please let us know. We'd love to help in any way that we can. They hang up the phone, and she gets off the phone, the lady does, and she continues to think to herself, why me? How is this happening? And it was that exact same day that she got the invite in the mail from me to come to the library, and that's what led her to the library. And so fast forward back to the meeting. At this point, all I can think of now is, well, when did she buy this insurance? How long has she had it for? I knew right away that she had bought in the Medicare Advantage plan because that's the Swiss cheese option that has the network. She ended up out of network, and the only way that could happen, assuming that the doctor takes Medicare, is that she had an HMO policy. So we get down to the details, and I learned that she took this Advantage plan out about 15 months ago. And it was at that moment I knew that we were in some trouble. Because of her recent diagnosis with the breast cancer, there wasn't a supplemental plan that I could help her with. So I wish the story had a happier ending, but she was unable to switch plans. She was stuck with that plan. So I'm sharing this with you to make sure that you understand the severity of getting this decision right the first time. In fact, if you think you may ever want a supplement, we encourage folks to get the supplement right away. You're guaranteed to get it within that first 6-month window. And we also feel if you're going to go with a supplement, you better get the right supplement the first time as well. Because to go from one supplement to another after that first 6 months, you're not guaranteed to go to another supplement either. Again, we're talking about switching plans because there's this perception out there that if you don't like what you have, you can just switch next year. And I think we've just covered how that is sometimes not the case, that you're not guaranteed to do that. So please don't forget about switching plans and what that could mean for you. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that. Your next steps here, folks, if you would please write this down. Please write down this website. It's start.grutzfinancial.com/apply. And it's at this website that you'll gain access to our live calendar. And our offer to you folks after sitting in on this training is if you would like to chat with us more about your situation, we are offering a free 20-minute Medicare strategy call. So it's on this website that you're able to go and select the best 20-minute window to fit your calendar. And on that call, you'll have the opportunity to speak directly with me. And on that call, we will talk about your Medicare timeline, what your insurance needs are, your insurance wants. You'll have the opportunity to ask me any other questions that you might have. And by the end of that call, we'll be able to determine whether or not we'll be able to work together on getting you your Medicare insurance. So again, it's start.grutzfinancial.com/apply. Now, no, this is not a picture of me. It could be, though, but it does remind me of a quick story that I want to share with you. My wife and I live in our home now for about 3 years, the one that we own now. And like a lot of couples, projects get put on hold. This past winter, it was a brutal one, but we finally decided that we should tackle the project of cutting a couple trees down in our backyard. So it was in early December that we were walking around, and we were identifying one of the trees right off the back of our house that was overgrown. It was rubbing on the roof. It was in fact pushing up a couple of the shingles on the roof, and we had identified this, almost when we bought the house, that we needed to cut that tree down. So we were just out looking at it, and we just decided again, yeah, that tree does need to come down. And it wasn't that big of a tree. It was the size of a tree that I had dropped before many a time since I have my own chainsaw. So I just told my wife, yeah, that should be pretty easy. I should be able to take that down, no problem. So then we moved on to the next tree that we knew was a bigger concern of ours. And it was one that was really close to the children's play set. Now, first of all, you have to understand about this tree, it was quite a bit larger. It was maybe 40 to 50 feet tall. And the trunk of it split into like a V formation very close to the ground. And when you have a trunk that splits that close to the ground, it can really compromise the strength of the tree. And the one side of the tree was hanging over the children's playset, and that really concerned us, obviously, if a windstorm were to come and fall that part of the tree over, heavens forbid if somebody were to get hurt. So we knew that that was a big risk. And the other side of the tree, of the V, was hanging over some really nice pine trees that we liked, and we didn't really want to take the risk of losing these nice pine trees. So we knew that that tree had to come down too, so we were just out there kind of gauging up whether or not I thought I could cut that tree down. And I told my wife, I think to save some money, we could go to the local rental shop and I could rent a lift and just go up and cut these branches down one by one. And then, piece by piece, I could take this tree down. It might take me a couple weekends, but I should be able to do it. And she's like, well, I don't know. Let's think about it. So a couple more weeks went by, and I had reached out to the rental store, and they had some pretty reasonable pricing. And shortly after that, my wife had asked me, well, so what do you think? Do you want to take these trees down? She goes, I think it's kind of risky. That one tree is pretty big. And she's like, I don't think that you should be doing that. I think we should get maybe we should bring in some tree cutting professionals to get their take and some pricing. And the more I thought about it, I thought, I'd like to do it myself, but maybe it's better to bring in some professionals. So we did, and I was pleasantly surprised at the pricing. It wasn't as much as I thought it was going to be. So I think we did the right thing and decided that I wouldn't take the risk of damaging the house or hurting somebody or hurting myself. And believe it or not, we had some really good guys come in, and they were in and out, and it was like a half a day. It was like 5 hours, and they cut all the trees down plus a couple extras, and it was like they weren't even there. And it saved me time, again, protected everybody, and at the end of the day, it was just the right thing to do. So if you're out there listening to this and you think you can go through this Medicare process yourself, you may want to second think that. And if you would like some help, please feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help you, just like we've helped people for over the last 10 years, make sure that they get the right insurance coverage in their shopping cart. And again, in order to do that, go to that website, start.grutzfinancial.com/apply, to schedule your free 20-minute Medicare strategy call. Thanks a lot, folks, for attending. Have a great rest of your day.